Hi everyone, Jack here from Junior Game Creators. Today I'm going to take you through a project based around a platforming game. Now platforming is a very popular genre. It was really made famous by Mario in the 80s and 90s, Sonic, that kind of game. These are really simple but fun and excellent games to test your skill on. And really the scope for telling stories and making complicated challenges is huge. So there's an awful lot you can do with a good basic platformer to take it off into a lot of different directions. So to that end, we've created a game today that we're calling Platform Runner, and it's so simple, it only has one sprite. So we've got our little ninja dude here called Pluto. And as you can see, at the moment I've got no scripts on him. We're going to fill those in together. But he's got one costume, one sprite, and then a few different backdrops, if I can give you a sneak peek here. So we've got different levels, and they're all created just using the backdrop creation tool here with different colors. So let's start filling out our scripts here for how we're going to make Pluto move. So we need arrow keys for him to move left and right, up for him to jump. We need some gravity so that when he jumps into the air, he doesn't just keep going and fly off into the sky. We also need some code for physics as well that's going to make sure when he hits a black surface, he stays on it. If he hits a red surface, it's going to be game over. And when you touch the green oval here, that's going to be getting you to the next level. That's your goal, essentially. If you think of Mario, it's like the flag post. So we're going to start out with Pluto on our script here. And we're going to begin with the when green flag clicked. We're keeping this so simple, we're not even going to do our game engine. Just a green flag clicked, it's one sprite, so it's not going to make a whole lot of difference. And the first thing I want to do is make a few variables. I've got jump height, I've got Y velocity, and I've got level. So these three here are the ones we're going to be concerned with. I've created these three variables, so you need to do that now, and then we're going to initialize them or set them back to the start. The numbers and values they need to begin with. So jump height, this is going to determine how high Pluto jumps, and this is a real good one to fiddle around with if you want to make the game feel a bit different, especially if you're going to make bigger levels or smaller levels or levels with different challenges in. So jump height I'm going to set to 10. That means whenever Pluto jumps, he's going to jump 10. Set level to 1 because we're going to start at level 1. And Y velocity is gravity. So velocity is speed with a direction on it, and the direction we're using is Y, so up and down. So anytime you've got a direction and a speed together, we call that a velocity. Y velocity we're going to set to 0 to begin with. Okay, so at the moment he's not falling anywhere. You only really want him falling if he's in the air. Now we're going to make sure our backdrop is switched to level 1, as we're going to be starting on level 1. And we want Pluto to start at his start position every time, which we're going to take as minus 180, so furthest on the left that we can get, and Y minus 100, which sits him nicely on this black floor here. So let's grab a go-to block, Y, X minus 180, and Y minus 100. Double check all of that's working. Oh, it's a little bit high up here. I wonder what could be causing that. Perhaps our Y value is not quite as low as it should be. We'll come back to that in a minute. Maybe we'll make him drop down. Now, the next thing we want to do is make sure he's got the right costume on. He's only got the one, but it's always a good practice to switch our costumes. So we're going to switch costumes to Pluto right, make sure that's set up correctly. And because we want him to face the right way when we're running in different directions, we're going to set his rotation style to just left and right. That will make sure he doesn't end up on his head at any point. Now, let's put in our little block of code for our gravity. So gravity is a force that's constantly pushing objects downwards. It acts towards the Earth. And at the moment, our Earth is this black bar here. So we need something that's constantly pushing Pluto down. So let's get a little forever because it's going to be constantly changing. And we're going to change our Y velocity by minus 0.8. So that means he's going to be constantly pushed downwards by 0.8. And we want to change his Y position by the Y velocity. So this Y velocity could also be called gravity. Gravity is a velocity, it's a force that acts in a direction and with a speed. So we're going to change Pluto's Y position by his Y velocity. And then we want to make sure that if he's hitting the ground, then that stops. We don't want him to forever be hitting the floor and flying straight through it. So let's take a repeat until, because we want this to happen until he hits a block. Repeat until you're not touching the color black. So if you're touching color black, stop doing what we're about to do. If you are touching the color black, then do it. So we need a not block here. And then in our sensing, we're going to take touching color black. So click the little swatch here and then click the color you want it to be. And when that happens, we want to change his Y to make him bounce back up a little bit. So we're going to change it by just 1. And set our Y velocity back to 0. So this is a little bit of a cheat, really. This isn't exactly how gravity works in real life, because gravity is always acting and there's different forces that are pushing you back up. Here, because this is a video game, we've got the luxury of changing the rules. So what we're doing essentially is once you hit the floor, we're just switching off the gravity pulling you down and we're making no force act on you. So we're setting Y velocity to 0. Let's test that out. Oh, he's got a little bit of a bounce going on here. It doesn't look great, does it? We'll come back to that. We'll fix that in a minute. But for now, that should work just fine. I think perhaps we can get him to stand still. Looks like he needs the toilet. We'll come back to that in a minute. Now, let's put in our controls for making Pluto run backwards and forwards and jump. So we're going to have another when green flag clicked. Now remember, we're just doing one sprite in this game, so we're not using our game engine here. So we're going to use a few of these. That's no problem. And we're going to put 3 if statements in. 1 for left, 1 for right, and 1 for jump. And we're going to take 3 sensing blocks for our different keys and plop those in as well. So let's start with right arrow, left arrow, and up arrow. Now this is fairly straightforward if you've ever done any kind of movement in Scratch before, but this is a super simple way to get a character to move left and right and to jump, a very common function in video games. So we're going to change our X by 10 if we're going to the right, and we want him to point to the right. You see 90 degrees is right, helpfully explained by Scratch there. And if we're going left, we want to change our X by -10 and point to the left, which is -90. Then if we're jumping, we're going to use the variable we created earlier, jump height. So we're going to jump by the jump height. So we'll change Y by jump height. And that way we can change how high our character jumps just by changing this number up here. And if we were to have more than one instance of Pluto, it would make life a lot easier for us to change that number by having it stored in a variable. Excellent, so we should be able to move backwards and forwards and jump now. Let's just test that out. Gliding along, jumping up and down, and then he falls back down quite nicely as well. But if you notice, he kind of sinks a bit into the ground when he hits the deck. This isn't ideal. It's like he's running in treacle or something. And he's still got that I need the toilet bounce going on. So we'll come back to that again in a second. Let's just carry on with what we've got so far. Let's make sure we can advance to the different levels and that we can fail if we hit any red color. Because if you have a look in the stages that I've made already, we've got lots of red and we've got our green goal at the end. So these are the black bits, platforms that we're going to be jumping on. The red is whatever you want it to be. I don't know, we could say it's lava. Maybe these are like lava streams that are shooting colder bits of rock up into the air that you're going to hop across. It's entirely up to you what you want to do with it. And with this simple red, black and green system, you can really quickly make levels to extend this game beyond just the 5 that it already has. So let's go back to our code. We're going to take another when green flag clicked. And we're going to do forever. And we're going to do 2 if statements, one for touching green, what happens if you hit the green goal, and what happens if you hit the red. So take 2 if statements in. And we want 2 color touching blocks. So if we're touching color green, And you can make these colors whatever you want. Just be careful that they don't match exactly any other colors in the game. Make sure you only use one color for one thing and one color for another thing. And I'm going to switch backdrops here just so I can find some of this red. And if we're touching this particular color, we're going to set a game over. So for our green, we want to change our level by 1 if you get to the end. So increase level by 1, which means you go on to the next level. Because remember, our costume is set to the level. Okay, and then we're going to switch backdrop to level. That way the game always knows what level we're on. And then we want to go to a starting position if we end up hitting that green. And it's a position you're going to want to keep clear when you're designing your levels as well. So we're going to go to -219 so that we always start right over, and -80. Cool. And then if we're touching any red, we want to make sure we go back to the start as well, because we don't want anyone to be able to just run through without avoiding any of our obstacles, so they have to get an instant restart. So we're going to go to -229 and -80. So let's just test that out. It should ping back to our first level. It has. And if I jump here, brilliant, we're on the next level. I can jump up these platforms, and if I touch the red, it's game over. So he's got a little bit of a ninja wall run going on there. Let's just see what happens if I miss. Oh, hit the red back to the start of this level. You don't go back to the start of the whole game, which I think is quite nice and quite fair. So I'm running through these levels quite quickly. I've played it a lot already, this game, because, well, I made it. That's one of the joys of making your own games. You get to play them as much as you want. But I'm still not happy with this bobbing up and down, this little fidget he's got going on. So we've made a very, very simple game, okay? A one sprite game, just a little bit of code, not an awful lot going on, but we're going to use a very, very advanced concept now to get rid of some of this bouncing. Now, this might be a section you've not used to Scratch a lot before, and I'll try and explain it as best I can, but it's really something that is for an advanced user. So if you're happy with the game like this, that's great. You can start making your own levels, but if you want to smooth things out, make it look a little bit better, then follow me through with this more blocks description. So what we're going to do, we're going to create a custom block. So we're making a block for Scratch. So you've got all the blocks already here that Scratch gives you, but you can actually put these together to make your own. So we're going to make a block, and we're going to call it touching ground, because we want to change what happens when our guy touches the ground. And we're going to have a look at our options here, and we've got all kinds of stuff. We've got add number input, add string input, add boolean input, add label text. Don't worry too much about what any of these mean right now. Okay, some of these you might recognize. A number input is like our variable, so our level one's an oval. String input could just mean text, any kind of text you want to include. Boolean is checking if something's true or false. So if it's not touching color, that's a true or a false thing. So we're going to leave it as it is for now. And we're going to run this without screen refresh. So at the moment, every time the screen updates what's going on, Scratch runs all of our code. And that's what's slowing down that little bit of code that's telling him to stop when he hits the floor. And that's what's giving us our weird little bounce. So if we run this without the screen refresh, and if we just run this all the time in the background, it should fix our little problem. So we're going to tick this box, and we get this new hat that we've created for ourselves. Just like when the green flag clicked hats are, you can add your own code underneath. So we're going to define it. We need to tell Scratch what touching ground means. So we're going to take our little lump of code from over here and plop it straight into this one. So now we've told Scratch that anywhere you see our touching ground block, run this bit of code, but don't wait until the screen updates. Just keep doing it. That was our little tick box. And we're going to plop this back in here in place of this code. So it looks like all I've done really is just double up on what I'm saying, but it means I can tell Scratch to keep doing stuff without waiting for the screen to update. So let's test it out now. Hey, looks like he must have gone to the toilet, or he's just held it. We're not sinking into the ground anymore. So this bit of code is taking priority over everything else, and it's making sure that as soon as you hit that floor, you're not going to sink into it. And now I can play through these levels without that sort of jittery movement. So there you go. That's a very simple game with your introduction to a very advanced concept using the extension blocks to create your own. And the possibilities from there are endless, and the uses are massive. There's lots and lots of different things you can do with the more blocks section. Really, we're going to cover these more in other videos, but I encourage you to have a play around with it, fiddle, and see what you can do. I mean, mucking about with stuff is the best way to learn, I think. I can't clear this level now. Ah, yes. It's a tricky game. And the best part about it is it's very easy to then go on and make your own levels. It takes a little bit of going backwards and forth. I would suggest, if you're going to make your levels, create them using the vector mode, because that means each shape that you draw is an object that you can then move around afterwards, and that way you can really quickly and really easily adjust any kind of shapes or distances or jump gaps that you need to. Okay, so start with a big black line across the bottom. I'm just going to use this because I've already started. Undo that one, drop that into the bottom here, and I'm going to fill this shape in, which is going to give us our black line that we want right across the bottom here. And a good way to check it quickly, to test your game works, go back to your scripts for Pluto, and just while you're playing, just while you're debugging the game, set the starting level to your new level. So we should start on level 6. And switch your backdrop to level 6. So this is my new level that I've created. There's no way to beat it at the moment, but I can quickly test out different things. And then remember, once you're done, you need to go back and change that all back to 1 again. So let's create a fill here, and let's make a big red thing to be scared of across the top. And if you're not sure what color to use exactly, you can always use the eyedropper. So click this and it will pick up the right color for you. And then you can fill it in with the color that you want. So it should mean, if I test this level now, I've got quite a tricky little jump here to try not to hit the red. Gonna need a green oval at the end. Let's just get the color first. Switch this to fill it in. Nice big finish there. And this should put us back to level 1. It has. So there you go. You can make your own levels super quick with this game. You can use the more blocks to increase the smoothness of it. And really, it's a very expandable, very extendable game with just one sprite in it. Not an easy thing to accomplish. So I can't wait to see what you do. I'd love to see you make some more levels for this game, because I'm a little bit bored of the ones that I've made now. I need a bigger challenge. Head on over to JGC blank, search for that on Scratch, and click on the Studios tab, and you'll find a blank version of this game in here to follow along with. Feel free to remix it to your heart's content, maybe even change up the character if ninjas aren't your thing. There's an awful lot you can do with this game.